On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about The Real Thing by Faith No More.
Finamas.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal and we like to talk about it. And every 3 months or so, every 6 months or so, it's every 6 months is what it is.
Sure, yeah.
But it's the third and ninth month.
Right.
But that still comes out to 6 months because time is circular.
It is. Time is a flat square.
All right. Yeah. That's the line. That's the line everyone knows.
Sure.
But every 6 months, including March and September, we like to talk about things that aren't necessarily metal. Mm-hmm. This more or less fits in for parts of it.
Yeah, there's metal aspects to it.
It's Faith No More, very eclectic bunch of influences on all the different members of the band, and lots and lots of different styles incorporated into
all at the same time.
All at the same time, or going back and forth and back and forth and
back and forth. They sway like with the wind.
Yes,
Resolution gives way again. All right, yeah.
Is that from something?
That's from this album.
That's from this album? Okay. I listened through it twice. I don't think I really picked up on many of the lyrics. I was just mostly kind of enthralled with Mike Patton's everything. That I wasn't really focusing too much on the lyrics, which, as I understand, was basically just kind of written over the course of a week of Mike Patton kind of instinctively going, this fits.
They're great lyrics.
Yeah.
They're great lyrics, and if you listen to it again, focus on the lyrics, also focus on the guitar.
Oh, yeah.
The guitar work is fantastic.
Great guitar. This is a great album.
I love the sound of the guitar on this.
This is a very well-known album.
Well, yeah, for a good reason.
I think by far Faith No More's most popular and most...
Well, not by far.
Maybe not by far.
By a decent margin, but Angel Dust does come in a second.
Pretty close, yeah. It's widely considered to be one of, if not their best. Yeah. We'll talk more about it later. First, how you doing? How you been doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
You're still working at home, and my cat's high right now.
Your cat's high. Cat got her lady parts removed.
Well, or at least
parts of her lady parts.
Sure.
Cauterized or scooped out. I don't know how they spay cats. Actually, I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
I don't know what they actually do.
Well, they don't use a spade.
Spay a cat. Okay,
yeah,
that would be pretty destructive.
That would be.
That would
little cat.
That would be bad for the cat.
They put their foot on there.
Even a lion, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah, right. That would be
even a very large terrible Siberian tiger.
And she's a small. I call her a 3-legged cat. She's really a 3.5-legged cat. She's got a stump. She has a stump, and
that's why you call her Peggy.
Right. And we have to do something about that stump because she uses it as a crutch a lot, but that means she smashes it into the floor.
Huh.
And sometimes she'll leave a trail of blood.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah.
So we need to maybe check that out. Maybe
some fitted cap of some kind.
That would be cool. That's what I want. I wanted to have like a spike or some sort of.
Yeah, really damage those floors.
But whatever. That's cool.
It's your house.
Yeah. But they're probably going to actually just remove more of the leg.
That probably.
Yeah.
Is the most logical solution, especially considering she's a cat.
Right.
And if you try to put anything on that, she's going to rip it off.
Totally.
Because she's a cat.
Uh-huh.
I was telling you before we started recording about my parents' cat Patches.
Right. Uh-huh.
There was a point where she tried her hardest to die in the most gruesome fashion possible.
That's fun.
It was February or March. I think it was February. My dad went outside to start his pickup truck, which had not been started over the course of the winter. He was just, doing some maintenance, getting ready, making sure it still ran. And, Patches had decided to go outside, one of the rare times that she ever wanted to go outside during the winter. And he had been starting it. and had turned it off and then went to go start it up again. And she had climbed up into the engine.
Engine bay.
Not the
inside the engine itself.
Yeah, she was under the hood. She got one of her legs caught in the belt, and I think hit by the fan a little bit. That leg was pretty messed up. Not. I don't think it was horribly messed up, but it was fairly messed up. She also, by some miracle, managed to not receive any lacerations from it, but get a perfect close shave on one of her sides from the fan, from the engine fan. Just a perfect patch of fur shaved down to the skin. I think there was maybe a couple little spots of blood where it got maybe a little close, but somehow that I don't know.
You couldn't have put Barbasol and taken a Bic to her and gotten a better shave.
It was, as I remember it, I don't remember it super well because the immediate aftermath of this event was traumatizing for me because I think I was 10 or something like that, and so she took off, and it was the fastest she's ever ran.
Sure.
Despite the fact that one of her legs was massively fucked up. She ran back into our shed in the back of our yard, and we had to go get her. And I don't know if I went with to go get her, but I do remember putting her on the kitchen counter and there being so much blood. And then rushing her down to the vet in Bismarck. And then she was in a cast for a very long time.
Right.
And I don't remember how she did this, but by the time the cast was off her one leg, she had done something to get her other back leg in a cast as well. So it just swapped legs. I don't remember what the fuck she did, but she just swapped legs. She was
a big cat.
She was not a big framed cat. The heaviest she ever was, I think, was like 18 pounds or something like that.
That's still a big pet cat.
That's a fairly heavy cat, but she was relatively small framed. So she looked much fatter. If, it had been like a Maine Coon, she probably would have been underweight.
Yeah,
at 18 pounds, but for a cat her actual frame size, she was rather overweight most of her life.
I knew a guy who had a 16-pound cat named Dick, and every time somebody new came over to his house, did the same stupid joke. You want to see my 16-pound dick?
It's also a pussy.
Oh, he's a hermaphrodite. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
I was the first summer that I ever played any tabletop role playing games.
Yes.
When we were playing, this is still to do with cats.
Okay, all right. First time anybody showed me their dick was during a tabletop game.
No, I was at the Game Master. We were playing at the Game Master's house, and there was this cat that was just the neighborhood cat. Wasn't their cat, but walked up, plopped down in the driveway. It was shaped like a fucking watermelon.
Sure.
It was the shape and size of a watermelon. This cat was so fucking circular. I've never seen
a more oblong kitty.
I mean, it was exactly that meme of, oh Lord, he coming. If you've seen that, the chunk chart of cats, it was precisely that. It was the most tragically obese cat I've ever seen. I don't know what it is though about cats where you see a really fat cat, and it should be, oh, who let you get like that?
Yeah, this is negligence.
But the other part of your brain goes, look at that fat cat. That's adorable. Look at this drunky cat. Like, I don't know what part of our brain makes us do that. Is it generally like you see a really fat dog and it's mostly, for me anyway, I don't think fat dogs are cute. I see a really fat dog and it's like, oh, you poor thing. But I see a really fat cat and it's just kind of like, look at that thing. I don't know why. I don't know why there's a disconnect there.
You would think that it's it kind of ingrained in the species because the phrase fat dog is not really a thing.
Yeah, but fat cat.
On the other hand,
He's a real fat cat, that.
Oh, Lord.
Look at this here fat cat coming on in here showing off all his money. And now he's coming around the bend, and it's
just a racing.
He's a Kentucky Derby announcer. That's what I associate that voice with.
A fat cat.
It's the radio announcer from Legend of Korra, actually.
Yeah, sure.
That's what that voice. I mean, I've done that voice before I watched Legend of Korra, but now that's an association in my head because that's exactly what he sounds like.
Attention, Mr. and Mrs. America and all ships at sea. Yeah.
We've just gotten word that President Roosevelt has declared war on the moon. He figured, you know what? We're already fighting the Japanese, the Italians, and the Germans. Why not the moon, too? Certainly, that's one we can win, given nobody lives there, as far as we know.
If I ask you about this, it's hard to say because we've got so many hours of talking in. Mm-hmm. Have you ever read Our Dumb Century?
No.
Oh. You need to find a copy of Our Dumb Century.
Our Dumb Century.
It is fantastic. The Onion.
Okay, it's an Onion book.
Right, it's a book of articles for the last 100 years.
Okay, but as through the lens of the
Onion.
It's the Onion writing fake. I imagine writing fake articles about historical events.
Right. Yeah.
That the Onion was not around for. When
was clearly not around for. Yeah. There was one article in there, just a little short article. It was the one thing that actually made me physically fall over. I was standing when I was reading it, and by the time I'd read the last sentence, I was crying and I'd fallen. It was
from laughter.
Yeah, last night's fireside chat, just a long stream of cuss words.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It was just a perfectly written piece, very short.
I'm just imagining Franklin D. Roosevelt sitting in front of a microphone, just fuck, shit,
shit, horse shit, and a good goddamn cunt kicking ass liquor.
I remember watching the King's speech, and that's I don't think they got quite that vulgar, but that was one of his vocal exercises was to just swear a bunch.
That was a fun movie.
It was a fun movie. I guess we're also talking about this on the week that's the most where the royal family is under the most scrutiny as well.
Sure.
It's talking about that. I don't really care that much about them. I think it sucks what obviously they've been doing, but on the other hand, it's like celebrities.
That's
what they are to us. They're not involved. That's really what they basically are to the British public. They're, meant to be. Yes, they perform a diplomatic role.
Sure, but it's not
generally
really
speaking, they're celebrities to everyone, and it's just kind of like, oh, hey, a bunch of fucking rich white people were shitty to a woman of color. Ooh,
this can be a thing that suddenly the British royal family are, uppity assholes.
Who would have thought these old rich white people were racist?
Yeah.
It sucks that it happens, but it's like, I'm not surprised.
No, it can't be.
And the thing that bothers me the most is, and I'm sure there are more that I'm not hearing, but at work, listening to our national newscasts, all of the British citizens that I've heard statements from and sound bites are like, I really wish that Harry and Meghan hadn't done that. Don't they see what they've done to the British? I haven't heard a single, and I know they're out there. I don't know why CBS is not playing any sound bites from British citizens going, yeah, fuck them. Fuck the royals. Let's get rid of it. I haven't heard any statements that I'm sure have been recorded of the British public going, yeah, they're racist. We've been wanting to get rid of them for a long time. We successfully did one time, and then they came back.
They're generationally racist and
yes.
And problematic people. I mean, have so been for centuries and centuries. Not just this group of people.
They're descended from the rulers of a country that once conquered the world via racism.
Yeah.
Or most of the world via racism.
Do you have a flag?
By insisting that they were superior to everyone else and therefore they had a right to have their land.
No flag, no country.
That's according to the rules. I'm backing it up with this gun. Borrowed from the National Rifle Association. Oh, Eddie Izzard.
Yeah.
Wonderful comedian.
Indeed. What has he done lately? Has he done anything? Oh, he's acting, I guess.
Yeah. Has he? I think he might prefer to be gender fluid. I don't know. Eddie Izzard. I think there was some news. But he's been openly a transvestite for a long time, but
decades.
I don't know if there's been some change of status there. I can't remember.
Like change of pronouns, or
a change of pronouns or something. I don't know if we're being unintentionally,
I don't know,
mislabeling somebody. I don't know. Anyway, Eddie Izzard, very funny person, very funny human being.
Right.
Brain not work. There were other things I was thinking of talking about, but I'm not sure if I can remember what they are.
What's happened in the last week?
Nothing has really happened. I'm taking a couple of days off coming up.
Are you?
My birthday's on a Monday this year, so I decided I'm going to take that day and the day after off. And if it's not windy and extremely cold, I'm going to take my kayak down to creek by my parents' place.
Under the Painted Woods or no?
Yep. And there is a low-level dam closer to the Missouri River that used to, my dad and I would go down there for pheasant hunting sometimes. And I'm going to go down there and park and then paddle upstream from that towards the golf course.
What's the closest you can paddle to the Garrison Dam? I wonder. Can you paddle right up to the edge of it?
To which edge? The lake side or the river side?
Well, which side is higher?
The lake side.
Yeah, so the lake side is what I'm saying. If you're in Lake Skakawea, how close can you get to the Garrison Dam?
I mean, theoretically, you could get right up to it. That would be a bad idea.
Why?
Well, you see, there are these big things called intakes that take water in and shoot it out very fast after sending it through a bunch of blades that spin and make electricity.
They call those turbines.
Yeah, I believe they're called turbines. You could get right up to it. It's just a bad idea.
It's a poor choice.
Yeah. This low-level dam, on the other hand, is, I'm imagining, not very dangerous on the top.
Is it more of a coffer than a dam? Or?
Low-level dams are still dangerous on the bottom end because they tend to have some pretty nasty currents.
Sure.
So
you don't want to dive into the water.
Yeah, if you were swimming up on the bottom end of a low-level dam, you can get kind of caught. There's a circular current down there that you can get stuck in and drown.
Right, even the coffers here in the Service River here in Minot, the one next to my house has killed like 3 people since I've lived there.
It's you don't want to fuck with them,
right?
Which is, I'm not going to be next to it. I'm going to be near it,
sure,
and paddle away from it,
right? In a kayak.
In a kayak,
yeah.
But I'm waiting. I want to go to Shields, and they supposedly by the end of this week or by next week they should have life jackets in stock because I want to see if they have the type of life jacket I want. Mm-hmm. Because they sell, supposedly they are a retailer for this brand. It's NRS. Mm-hmm. They make a ton of personal flotation devices, but there's a specific life jacket they make called the Ninja. That's a low profile type of life jacket.
Sure.
That
so you
lets you have a bit more freedom of movement.
You can be sneaky in your kayak.
Yeah. And it also has a pocket on the front because it's not a zip in the middle. It's around the sides, basically. Clip all around the sides. And it's got a big pocket in the middle, which I think would be good to have the phone in.
Sure.
I have a waterproof case. Put the phone in that pocket, and I can have headphones and stuff. And
nice.
Just do all kinds of shit.
Do you have Bluetooth headphones or?
No, but I have the case that I got also has a little extension for the headphones that supposed to make some manner of a seal. I also have a Galaxy S9, which is supposed to be water resistant anyway.
Sure.
So
now it's more waterproof.
Yeah, there will be several layers ensuring that this phone doesn't get fucked up by water.
Nice.
Including being in the life jacket in the first place.
More than one time I have been at a body of water with my shorts on and my whatever shirt on, and going, hey, let's jump in the water. Let's jump into Roosevelt Pool. Let's jump into Lake Skakuya. What is that vibrating feeling against my leg?
Oh, no.
God damn it.
Cell phone.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I've had multiple dreams about jumping into water with cell phones on my person.
Yeah.
I just have I have lots of stress dreams. I don't have nightmares. It's just stress dreams.
They're
basically the same thing, but
well, yeah.
a nightmare is more specifically like life or death related, I guess.
Right, where stress dreams is just like, ugh. I'd had more than one dream this week that I had moved in with one of my teenage daughters.
Really?
And her baby.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
That's...
And my daughter's mom came to visit, and she was missing her lower jaw.
Well, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
That's some real fucked up shit.
I couldn't understand what she was saying. I'm trying not to stare.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything else about the dream other than I had moved in with my daughter and her baby, and my daughter's mom came by to visit and had no lower jaw.
That's fucking weird, man. That's a weird dream.
It was a weird dream.
Speaking of weird things, Faith No More. Really, the weirdest thing in Faith No More is Mike Patton.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a lot about Mike Patton because
of course.
He is by far one of the weirdest and most talented people in the music industry.
Sure. Yeah.
He's a weird dude. He's a very weird dude that established himself as the term anti-rocker was used a lot. He was the bad boy of rock and roll in the sense that he didn't give a shit about being a rock star.
Right.
And basically shat on anyone who considered themselves like a rock star. Uh-huh. Sometimes literally. There was many cases, both confirmed and alleged, of incidents involving defecating
with Mike Patton.
With Mike Patton.
Oh, that would be a fun segment. And now, defecating with Mike Patton.
Yeah. Mike Patton is just, he's so interesting. Uh-huh. Just because of the fact that he gives so little of a shit, as it would seem. And in spite of that is such a because of that, probably actually is such a ludicrously prolific recording artist.
Sure.
He has been involved in so many projects. Mm-hmm. I actually should have I should have had that pulled up of exactly how many bands Mike Patton has been involved with. It's a lot. Uh-huh. We've discussed this before. He actually recorded an EP as the vocalist of Dillinger Escape Plan. That was in 2002. They were in between vocalists. They hadn't hired Greg yet. And I think it was in direct response to, or very close to around the time Velvet Revolver asked Mike Patton to be their singer. And he's like, no, I'm going to go sing for this mathcore band that nobody's ever heard of.
Slash. He was in Velvet Revolver. Right?
Yeah. It was basically, I think it was all the original members of Gnur except Axl Rose, I think. So let's see what bands do we have?
There's Phantomus and Mr. Bungle and
let's just associate. Well, there's associated acts. What about? Because he's not been in all of these associated acts. Come on. This is a labyrinthian Wikipedia page. He has a very, very long Wikipedia page. Mike Patton discography. Let's give this a shot. Obviously, yes, we've got Faith No More, Mr. Bungle, Phantomus, Peeping Tom, Tomahawk, Lovage, and more. He has recorded 32 studio albums, 2 live albums, 7 compilation albums, 15 video albums. He's been in 19 music videos. He has made 60 plus other appearances, according to Wikipedia. There's a band called Tetema. There's a band called Dead Cross. There's his solo works. Yeah, he's also composed film scores, despite the fact that he apparently cannot read or write music notation.
Right.
It's just he's an enigma, mostly because, especially in a lot of his earlier interviews, he's become a bit more serious as he's gotten older.
Right. He's almost 53 now.
But in his early appearances on like MTV and stuff, he would just say the wildest shit.
Yeah.
He would just make up the wildest shit that he's done or the weirdest responses he could possibly give and intentionally like not genuinely engage with the interviewers.
I'd like to thank MTV
for this golden dildo or however that went. And the thing that I find most interesting about him, and one of the things I find admirable about him, is the fact that it's kind of going along with the theme of epic, I guess.
Sure.
But he could have had it all, basically. He had so many offers from these extremely popular bands to record with them, perform with them. He's handsome, extremely talented, and a workaholic, very dedicated.
Sure.
He could be much more famous than he is.
He's willfully less famous than he
could be.
Yeah.
He intentionally didn't want that, which I think is admirable. I think that's an interesting choice to make with one's career.
Sure.
It's also, he was in a place where he could do that, where he happened to, I believe, as the story goes, he was performing a Mr. Bungle show at a pizzeria or something like that, and the members of Faith No More were there. And he must have been like 17 at the time, because it was a few years later when they asked him if he wanted to be their new vocalist. And at that time, he was like 20. And like before that, Mr. Bungle was just kind of a thing that he and his friends did.
Sure.
It wasn't really like a serious band that they were trying to make it as. It was just a thing they were doing for fun. And then he got approached by Faith No More, and then suddenly he's a fucking superstar. And that also allowed him to continue doing Mr. Bungle and make Mr. Bungle even weirder.
Which their new album, we talked about that a little bit.
We discussed it. I found out their new album is not actually their new album. That is a re-recording of their first demo tape.
Right, that never went anywhere.
That was never really released anywhere. It was their very first demo tape, which I believe it was given to the members of Faith No More the night that they met. And then, of course, years down the line, they asked him to be their singer. But
and there's a number of inside jokes in there in that new Mr. Bungle. Of course, Scott Ian was in a band called SOD, and they had an album called Speak English or Die.
Yes,
and the title cut was just like
Speak Spanish or Die.
Yeah.
And then there is also Mike Patton was in some other thing with. Oh, Fantomas, as Dave Lombardo was in Fantomas, wasn't he?
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So
he was the drummer.
They performed. Really, Dave Lombardo performing drums? That's crazy. That'd be weird if Dave Lombardo was a vocalist for something.Maybe he has been. I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know everything about Dave Lombardo's career, but yeah. So that's the new lineup of Mr. Bungle. I don't know if they're really planning on doing much with the lineup other than the re-recording that they've done. I imagine they probably had plans to do some touring.
There's some live footage you can see.
Yeah, that's right. There is a music video of them doing a live performance or whatever. But I don't know if they were planning on doing any tours or anything, because while they were putting all that together, the world ended. But it's also interesting because like some certain music reviewers, I was looking at reviews for that, which is called, what is it? The Raging Revenge of the Easter Bunny.
Yeah.
And some people, I think, maybe weren't aware that it was a re-recording of Mr. Bungle's earliest stuff, which at the time they sort of formed as kind of a thrash death metal type band. That's what they were all listening to when they started performing together.
Sure.
And then Mr. Bungle wildly mutated and changed as the years would go on and do more funk and hip hop and all kinds of other shit. Just like if you've listened to Faith No More, Mr. Bungle is Faith No More, but more. It's everything that makes Faith No More interesting to an even more intense degree.
Yeah.
The eccentricity of the influences and styles that are on display.
It's much harder to listen to than
Yes.
Faith No More.
Faith No More is generally pretty easy to listen to.
Yeah.
Mr. Bungle, not quite so much.
No.
For most people, I
enjoy it. Yeah.
because it's fucking weird, and I
Yeah.
like weird shit.
Yeah.
Let's talk more about this album in earnest.
And let's not throw a shadow on the rest of the band here.
Absolutely.
The rest of the band, every single member of this band is freakishly talented.
We got Roddy Bottom.
Roddy Bottom, yeah,
Which I think is an unfortunate name on the keyboards for this album. Bill Gould on bass. James Martin on guitars, and Mike Borden on drums. And yes, they are all prodigiously talented as well.
Yeah.
And so we'll turn back the clocks. It's 1989.
Yeah.
Were you listening to this as it came out, or is Faith No More something that you got into more later?
When it came out, when this album came out, I mean, this is our third album.
Yes.
And I was going to school at Bishop Ryan High School. And I really fit in there.
Yeah. At a Catholic school. OJ really fit in at Catholic school.
Mm-hmm. If there were no nuns with rulers at the time, so that never happened. Otherwise, it would have.
You missed the bus on that
one. My buddy Scott had skipped school to go to Dairy Queen.
Okay,
because I liked hanging out with Scott because he made me look normal.
Okay. So, he was even weirder than you.
Even weirder than me. He's still alive now. And he was coming back and he said, "Oh yeah, I found this in my book bag. I've been listening to this. Forgot to tell you about it. You should borrow this."
Okay.
And so I did.
A cassette or a CD?
A cassette.
Oh, a cassette.
Cassette, yes.
I don't know when CDs became an
already owned CDs
thing.
at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. Not many, but some. But yeah, and I listened to it over and over and over, and I listened to it about 3 times before I went, yeah, I like this. I like this.
This is okay.
Yeah, but it took 3 times.
I think if you would listen to it 3 times, by the time you start your third listen, I feel like that's when you should know.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be until after the third listen. It should be the start of the third listen where you go, if this has intrigued me enough to listen to it this third time, it's probably good.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe this is all right.
Yeah. And it actually sank in over a period because it was a little out of my realm. It didn't fit into a neat package.
It never does.
No.
It still doesn't really fit into a neat. Well, okay. It does kind of fit into a neat package in the sense that this Faith No More in particular, and this album in particular, is kind of the birth of alternative metal.
Kind of, yeah.
Which took off in the 90s.
Which I did listen to a lot of alternative metal in the 90s, and this might have been the start of that.
Yeah, this is I think very much the genesis of a lot of things. Obviously, there's other things going on in this album. It's not all metal.
I should bring some more alternative metal to the table. I can just imagine having you listen to this and you're going,
okay.
All right. Okay.
I've never been much of like an alternative metal or alternative rock guy. I don't know what it is.
There's some good stuff out there that you probably haven't heard.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of it just hasn't appealed to me too much. I don't know. I like this because it's weird. It's not super weird, but it's weird. I think in comparison to popular music in the late 80s, this is pretty weird.
It is, yeah.
Considering how popular certain songs on this album became.
Yeah.
It's pretty weird.
At least one.
Epic is the most popular song.
I heard it at the grocery store the other day.
Yeah. But in that respect, it's still kind of a weird song to have been as popular as it was. Especially like Mike's vocal performance on this and most of the album. He's kind of got that, I guess you'd call it sort of crooning, maybe. No, I'm probably misusing that word. Very nasally performance on most of it, which is not really what his singing voice necessarily sounds like.
No,
but his singing voice doesn't really sound like anything because what his singing voice sounds like is whatever the fuck he wants it to be.
Sure, at the moment.
That day.
Yeah.
this is just what he decided fit with the songs. Because the way he wrote the lyrics and performed the vocals was they had already finished all of the tracks and they handed them, they handed the tracks to him basically and listen to these and do whatever. And he sat down with them for like a week and wrote all the lyrics and, performed all the shit. Again, not being able to read or write music notation. But like, that's how he basically does all of his work is he lets the instrumentalists do what they're going to do.
Right.
And then sits down with the instrumentals. He doesn't write via jam session, which is something that I was reading about. Basically him saying like, he doesn't care to be there for jam sessions. He prefers to have the full track and then makes whatever he's writing fit with that instead of them coming up together, which is, I think there's something to be said for either style.
Sure.
But he doesn't force the rest of the band generally to fit their music around his lyrics. Basically, it's the other way around.
That's going to be weird for the rest of the band, I imagine. And there is the
Mike. What do you think about this? I don't care.
Actually, that kind of
he does care. He's got plenty of input, but anyway,
that happened with my band quite a lot. We would rehearse a lot of stuff. We'd be playing the guitar, the bass, the drums. We play a lot, and wouldn't be until we got to a show or we got to a recording that they'd heard any of the vocals at all.
Oh, you just hadn't come up with the vocals.
I hadn't come up with any vocals, and usually in our practice space, we didn't have any microphones.
Okay,
so.
It was just like, so if you were to say any vocals, no one would be able to hear them over their own instruments.
Right. There's no monitors. So,
well, and if you're going to leave one thing and wait to do one thing until you're in a recording space, I think lyrics is one of those things you probably can leave.
Yeah.
If you've got, between 5 people, it can be relatively easy to, depending upon the genre, to come up with some lyrics fairly quick. Versus, it astounds me, hearing tales about, rock bands in the 70s and 80s that hadn't written fucking anything before they got into the studio. How the fuck do you do that?
Writing everything in the studio.
That's got it so much more expensive, but they were also given ludicrous advances back then.
Back when record companies made money.
Yeah. Whereas now it's like, I remember before I really knew anything about music production, but watching a documentary about, it was just a vlog essentially about the making of, I think it was Lost Forever, Lost Together, the Architects album. They had every song fully demoed and recorded at home studios before they brought it to, they brought it to Gothenburg, to the...
Nice, in Sweden.
The 2 guys that produced all of the Swedish death metal albums. I don't... Frederick something. I don't remember.
Replaced all of In Flames. Or plays recorded.
It's those guys. Yeah. I'm just gonna pull up the Wikipedia page of that album because it will tell me. But they had everything just fully demoed before they got into the studio because they wanted to maximize, the amount of time they had in the studio to be able to actually produce the album and make everything sound good instead of having to waste time on coming up with parts of songs. Fredrik Nordstrom is the engineer. He has recorded bands like At the Gates, Arch Enemy, Night Rage, Dark Tranquility, In Flames, Soilwork, Opeth, Powerwolf.
So a couple of bands. You might have heard of one or two.
Might have heard of a couple of those bands. But very prolific recording engineer in Sweden. But yeah, Faith No More. I don't remember where we were before we started talking about that, but
we were talking about him writing lyrics, out of jam sessions.
Yeah, or not writing lyrics out of just listening down to completed instrumental tracks or in completed demos, I imagine, or something. I don't know. In any case, it's an interesting process.
I've always wanted to try to with my guitar. I mean, when I was still playing, I really don't play anymore. I've played for years.
Yeah,
at this point. I always wanted to try to mimic Jim Martin's sound. I've always loved the sound of his guitar.
It's a really
on
good
this
guitar
album.
tone. I like the bass tone too.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
Very well produced all the way around. This album sounds so clean.
Mm-hmm.
It was recorded in 1989. This is the third album from what was at the time not a particularly popular band, and it sounds so good. It sounds really, really good. Do you think this slaps?
It does.
Yeah, mostly. Mostly. There's every once in a while there's a little bit of a song that maybe doesn't slap, but this is, to use our favorite buzzword, dynamic.
Dynamic, yeah. Like Edge of the World. That's not really. Is
Edge of the World the instrumental, or is that's
Woodpecker from Mars. Edge of the World is the last cut.
Okay,
that's where he's singing and
and it's just like it's piano or keyboard. It's keyboard and
it's all the keyboard and drums and bass.
Did Wikipedia call it carousel music? I don't know what carousel music is, but that was a term that was used on the Wikipedia page. I don't know what the fuck that means.
This one, if you'd listen to the lyrics of that song, you'd been creeped out a little bit by it because
there's a couple. The Zombie Eaters is a fucking weird song.
Yeah.
Like I paid attention to the lyrics on Zombie Eaters, and that was like, what the fuck, Mike? That was one thing where he brought like, okay, here's the lyrics I wrote, and there was a couple times where the other members of the band were like, maybe we could just pare this back just a little bit.
Reel it in there.
Just couch a little bit of this. I don't know where the fuck you came up with this shit, but let's reel that back. Let's dial it back about 10% here.
Yeah, I mean, Zombie Eaters is basically about toxic masculinity.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Making the overt comparison is an adult man pretending to be a baby, basically.
Yeah.
But also being kind of a violent baby.
Right.
Basically. Which, that's toxic masculinity. Being a man-child. Man-child is the appropriate term there.
Right. I'm in charge, but you better take care of me.
Yes. I'm in charge, but also... Please.
There's also a song on here that was written entirely about the novel Interview with the Vampire.
Really?
Yeah.
What song is that?
Surprise You're Dead.
Is that what that is? Yeah. How, in what way is that a reference to Interview with a Vampire?
Go back and read the lyrics or listen to the lyrics.
Okay.
He was inspired by that.
All right.
At least that series of books, especially, but
sure. I've heard Surprise You're Dead before.
Yeah.
As covered by the bands Aborted and All Shall Perish.
Really? You've heard two different cover versions of that?
There's like 4 more different death metal bands that have done covers of Surprise You're Dead.
Really?
Surprisingly. All Shall Perish is a deathcore band, but still,
sure.
Yeah, there's been a bunch of different bands that have covered lots of Faith No More songs, but specifically death metal bands seem to hone into Surprise You're Dead.
Well, sure.
Which is not surprising because it's
not
one of the heaviest songs on the album, if not the heaviest song on the album. I was looking at scores. I mean, this is an album with a massive legacy, but the score came back to around 80, which is generally
really? 80.
At least the ones that I found there. So I didn't crunch the numbers. I was just kind of looking at the number of stars and I was like, this is 80 plus. And I don't know how many of those were reviews conducted at the time or how many of them were more recent reviews, because I think this album is one of those that has gone on to have such a massive legacy for so many people. Cited all over pages for Mike Patton and for Faith No More is Greg Puciato talking about what an insane, massive influence Faith No More, and I'm sure other members of the Dillinger Escape Plan as well, even before they were involved with Greg.
Yeah, and Jim Martin before Faith No More was in a band called, I think at the same time too, a band called Spastic Children.
Okay.
The bass player was a fellow by the name of Cliff Burton.
Oh yeah, I did read that. Yeah.
And in and out sometimes James Hetfield and Kirk Hammett.
Yeah, they were around.
Yeah.
I remember reading that now. Yeah, that was like Cliff Burton.
Yeah.
Well. But yeah, this has had such a massive influence, and like we discussed, kind of the genesis of a lot of things in alt metal that would come in the later years.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of bands that might not have happened the way they did if Faith No More hadn't done this.
Or had happened at all.
Right. Really. Yeah, really. I mean, what? We can do that? Okay, let's do that.
Well, sure. A little bit of rap, a little bit, some chunky bass lines instead of, wait. You mean we can have bass that's actually audible in metal.
Wow. Wait, we can do this in some sort of rhythmic, pattern rather than like just play as fucking fast as you can.
What? That's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, this massive influence. And I think it's interesting, like that. I was talking about Dillinger Escape Plan.
Yeah.
Mike actually performed in the first of their last 3 live shows.
Really?
That they did in 2017. They did 3 shows, 3 nights in a row at this one venue in New York, I think. I think it was in New York. Maybe it was I can't remember where they're from. They're from somewhere on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're from New Jersey, actually.
New Jersey.
From Jersey. But in any case, Mike performed with them on the first night of those performances. But I think it's interesting because you can hear, when you listen to anything that Greg has done, you can hear the Mike Patton influence there. Like it's he wears that on his sleeve. I think so much of his vocal style is very influenced by Mike Patton. But what's your favorite song on this album?
My favorite song on this album, God, it actually changes from listen to listen. I actually really like the title track. I like the real thing.
That's what I wrote down as title track.
It's really good. I mean, it's
one of the most dynamic tracks on the album.
Yeah, because it starts out with just this little rim shots.
Yep.
And it's very...
Goes back and forth between the keyboards and the big like metal riffs, and it kind of goes back and forth. And I really, it's also one of the longer songs.
It is.
I think it's the longest song on the album, which I appreciate. I like my more kind of weird progressive songs to be longer. I like that. More time to noodle around. I don't mind. Go ahead and noodle. I don't mind. But other favorites that you were going to
I really like the closing track. I like Edge of the World because it sort of almost alludes to there's the line in there, it's not the point that I'm 40 years older.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And he keeps calling her a little girl. And then I have to say in my mind, when he says little girl, he's 70 and she's 30. Now, this is not the creepy thing that they're trying to make it sound like it is.
Now I remember that. He's playing a character. It's almost like making fun of like 50s kind of songs.
Sure.
Where people, that always creeps me out where people use the terms little girl.
Oh, yeah. Like that Lynyrd Skynyrd song we play on. What's your name, little girl? Dude,
like, no, don't.
100 yards. You need to stay 100 yards.
Please don't call someone that unless you're in the bedroom and that's what they like. Then go ahead. I'm not going to shit on what someone likes. But out in public, don't. Even
on the other end of that, I wouldn't want to be the recipient of a woman ever calling me daddy. I think.
There's a weird.
No. Yeah, I mean, what if like you're in the middle of coitus and you say, "Who's your daddy?" and then she tells you,
Steve.
Yeah.
His name is Steve. You've met him. Yeah. We're married. You've met my dad.
We're in his house right now.
He's on the other side of this wall. So you better be quiet. Who's your daddy? Oh. God damn it, I'm trying to sleep. Oh, jeez. So, Faith No More, The Real Thing. What medal are you bestowing upon this? Like Maz Kanata to Chewbacca?
I have to give it a Gould.
A Gould. Ah! Wait, the alien snakes from Stargate?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. I'm also giving this a Gold. I've listened to bits of this before. I can't remember what prompted me to listen to this previously. It was probably just something reading about Mike Patton or I think it was actually I think it was Metal Injection or something like that. There was like, I think they were covering like the Summer Slaughter tour or something, but they asked a bunch of the bands there members of the bands, they're like, who do you think is the greatest metal vocalist of all time?
Mm-hmm.
And like 70% of them said Mike Patton. Everyone who didn't say Mike Patton said King Diamond. It was between Mike Patton
and King Diamond.
Everyone basically said Mike Patton or King Diamond.
Which, by the way, if they ever do a duet, that would be tremendously awesome.
That would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I have not mentioned, which is a little tidbit, is that there was some magazine who basically did a big, did a big research project essentially.
Yeah.
And found that out of male vocalists, and I think just vocalists in general, Mike Patton had like one of the widest vocal ranges of any popular music singer, which Mike thinks is bullshit. Like he's like, there's someone that's better than me.
The one that I read,
he has a 6-octave range.
The one that I read recently, the report, I guess it's been a few years now, actually, and gave credit where credit is due. Axl Rose.
That was the thing. I think it was this magazine. They said Axl Rose first, and then a bunch of people were like, "What about Mike Patton?" And so they said, "No, actually, it's Mike." Maybe they went back again.
Maybe
it's probably between the two of them.
Yeah,
but
what if they had a baby?
Axl Rose and Mike Patton.
Yeah,
it'd be a handsome baby.
Maybe.
I mean, Axl Rose was hot as shit when he was in his 20s.
Was he?
I'm pretty sure Axl Rose is famously a pretty good looking dude.
I feel like a lot of that was really, really pumped up by the fact that he was
a rock star.
He was the lead singer in one of the hottest rock bands of the day.
I guess. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Hey. People say Cleopatra was like insanely beautiful. She was probably fairly normal looking. She was just also very powerful and smart.
Which is hot.
Which is hot to be powerful and smart.
Yeah.
I think that'd be an interesting and very vocally talented child.
Sure.
Probably.
Yeah. Nothing lasts forever. And we both know hearts can change. Anyway.
Thanks.
It's hard to hold a candle.
You got more in you?
In the cold November rain.
Okay. Ooh, sweet child of mine.
All right.
That's what I got.
Sure. Okay.
So next week, I haven't really. Oh, duh.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I haven't really decided. No, I know what we're doing next.
Definitely
We're doing No Closer to Heaven by the Wonder Years.
I've never heard of them.
You've never heard of the Wonder Years? It's the soundtrack to a television show that was on in the 80s.
That was the voiceover was done by Daniel Stern and
and also there was I can't remember the name of the actor who plays. Who's the actor who plays the Fonz?
You're talking about
that's Happy Days. Never mind.
Yeah, no, the one.
The Wonder. Who's on the
Fred
Wonder
Savage.
Years? Fred Savage was on the Wonder Years.
Yeah, Fred Savage, and then Winnie was played by the hot math girl.
The hot math girl?
Yeah, she grew up to be a big math nerd, and she writes math books for girls.
See, I know the hot math girl as being Rachel Riley from Cat Says Countdown in the UK.
You're not wrong.
I know I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
But in any case, no, The Wonder Years, No Closer to Heaven, came out in 2015. It's one of their three most recent albums the only one of their three most recent albums we haven't talked about. And it's the one that I feel like in the last year has been most relevant to how I've been feeling and how, everything was going down over the last year. I think it's their most depressing album in certain ways. I'm sorry.
Because
you've heard parts of it. You've heard acoustic songs off of this track.
Oh, really? Oh, those are from this?
Not all of them.
Okay.
Just parts. There's a particular song that I think was my favorite when we did the acoustic episode, which is oh no, I can't recall the name of it actually off the top of my head.
Because I know every time that we do a Wonder Years album, I listen to the songs like, this is great music, this is great melody, great instrumentation, and then at the end of it, some part of my brain in the back was listening to the fucking lyrics
and getting really sad.
And so the song is over, and I go,
oh boy. I Wanted So Badly to Be Brave.
Yes.
That I love that song, and that's on this album. There's also a couple more that I really, really like. Song for Ernest Hemingway was also, there was an acoustic version of that. And there's Cigarettes and Saints is an amazing song. And then we also have, what is it? What was this? Oh, Palm Reader. Palm Reader is the song that came up a lot for me over the last year.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll talk more about that next week. We'll be sad. I'll bring my inner emo out. I'll make sure to really sweep my hair over part of my face.
You're going to bring a large flightless Australian bird?
Yep. Just like those car insurance commercials or whatever the hell they're selling in those commercials with the emu.
Yeah.
Is that car insurance?
Emu. Yeah.
Is that
Liberty Mutual?
So that's life insurance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Liberty Mutual, the emu.
Or is that Liberty Medical?
Yeah, did you ever heard that the Australian Army actually had
the Great Emu War.
The Great Emu War.
I'm well aware of the Great Emu War.
That they fucking lost.
Mostly because it was just a waste of time, money, and bullets. Not that any soldiers got killed by emus. It was just a waste of time.
Did birds ever win a war? Yeah, they did.
They did. It was a war of attrition. The Australians lost. Emus had feathers. The Australian army had fucking Lewis guns. Anyway, thanks very much for listening to this episode. If you would like to hear more in the future, maybe check out our Facebook or Twitter pages. We post links there. Also, certainly, more importantly, subscribe to our feeds on your iOS device via the podcast app or on Libsyn. They have a mobile app. It's called the Podcast Source. You can download it in your App Store or Google Play or whatever it is you got. If you're like me, you got an Android, you got that Google Play.
Sure. I got me the iPhone.
You got the iPhone, so you just got the podcast app. That's what podcasts are. That should be the description. The podcast app, where podcasts are.
Where podcasts are.
Thanks very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations! Clink.